My name is Michael Birdie Hansen, and I've lived in Sausalito for my whole life. I don't know who owned it the first time, but the second time it was owned was by my grandpa. He was in the Navy. When he got out of the Navy, I think World War I, came to Sausalito and wanted to continue his fishing career. I'm not sure the timeline, but by 1930 he'd come here and bought the house next door for $1,000. And my grandma and my grandpa set up shop there. His boat was down at the end of the block, and my grandpa and grandma lived there and had my dad. My dad was bathed in the sink that I did dishes in. During the Depression, there was a lady that lived in this house, and she couldn't afford the mortgage. So my grandpa said, well, I'd be happy to take over the mortgage. It was $10 a month. So he took over the mortgage and let her live here till she died. It became a rental property for my grandpa and grandma. And then when I was born, my brother and I were born, he said, now we know who to give the houses to. Well, the vibe, we all know the vibe. Back in the day when we were kids growing up around here, it was an artist community, and it was a really special place for people to live that didn't have a lot of money. This was an outpost at one time, and these were bungalows, and this is where men kept their women from San Francisco. The lawyers would have apartments here, rentals here, that they would keep their ladies in and go visit them on the ferry. There was no connection to the city until they built the bridge. And they built the bridge, and then it became what it is today.
Welcome to Marin County, California, where the search for the ultimate lifestyle is the goal of every man.
In the 70s and 80s, growing up in Marin County was growing up with rock royalty. It was growing up with Journey, it was Huey Lewis and the News, Jefferson Airplane, Janis Joplin and her band lived here. Everybody who was anybody in rock and roll lived here. The Grateful Dead, probably the greatest example of Marin County. They would give me and my brother their old equipment when they were done with it. They would pass it on to us because they knew we're here and went, come on, keep going. Growing up here, had all my bands, had so many bands. I can't even tell you how many bands. And then met a friend of mine, lived downtown. We decided to put a band together, and we decided to name it a community name.
One way or another, has got to you.
And have a band called Hurricane Gulch. And we've been pursuing that for like the last decade. Just rock it and get something out of it for yourself. I mean, it's a rock star's house. I've had, in my career of playing music, I've had rock stars come to my house and tell me I was the winner. I was the rock star. So it's just peaceful, wonderful living. This house for 40 years has been a joy every morning to get up, look at that view, and just be here. If you live in Sausalito, you are subjected to the weather of Sausalito, which is Carl. You must know Carl. if you know about Marin County, which is the fog and the wind. We live here in Hurricane Gulch, which is the windiest place to live in Sausalito, and I love it. I mean, Golden Gate Market's right at the end of the road, and Molly Stone's is at the end of town. And then in between, there is the No Name and Smitty's. Yeah, it's a beautiful little jewelry box. You know, it's enough for a couple to live in with a kid or a couple alone. You have to be willing to go up and down the hills, and you have to be willing to go out in the wind and sometimes the rain and the fog and everything like that. You know, but it's lovely. You know, I've never not enjoyed that. You know, I'm getting older, so going up and down the hills is a little harder, but I love the wind and the fog and the everything. I love the weather of it. And then there's plenty of sunny days. Like today is a beautiful sunny day. So it's what everybody wants. That's why everybody wants to live here.